Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome everybody to the Burke County Board of Commissioners pre-agenda meeting for Tuesday, April 5th, 2022 at 3 p.m. I would like to remind everybody to please silence your electronic devices. Madam Clerk, I would like to say, here's Commissioner Britton. So we have all five: Commissioner Britton, Commissioner Carswell, Commissioner Taylor, and Commissioner Abley, all five in attendance. We have our County Finance Officer, Margaret Pierce, our County Attorney, J.R. Simpson, our County Manager, Mr. Brian Steen, all in attendance, Madam Clerk. I would ask those that are here to speak at the lectern today, please activate the microphone before speaking for our YouTube recordings. And gentlemen, our next item is to approve the approval of the agenda. Gentlemen, if you will notice, we are removing decision item number 1 at BDI's request. We thought there was going to be a presentation, but because of moving targets on funding, that was removed because we don't have enough information to bring it before the board at this time. And also, if it's the board's pleasure, Madam Clerk and Ms. Pierce asked us to make one slight amendment to the agenda as well under presentations. If we could make item number one, the swearing in of our new tax administrator, Mr. John Bridgers. He was sworn in officially in Margaret's office yesterday, but we would like something a little more public than that. And so, if the board doesn't mind, I would ask us to make that amendment to the agenda as well under presentations. So, gentlemen, hearing that, I'll accept approval of the agenda as with those two amendments.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Taylor. All those in favor, show with uplifted hand. Thank you, gentlemen. Motion carried 5-0, Madam Clerk. So under presentations, as previously mentioned, we are going to have our swearing in, public swearing in for our new tax administrator, Mr. John Bridgers, and that will be done by Madam Clerk Kay Drawn. Good afternoon. You hit the red light. We're live now. Looks like we got a good crowd here of support.
I think my staff wanted to make sure I was legal.
Is anybody paying their taxes right now with everybody in here?
There is somebody in the tax collector's office.
All right, we ready?
Yes,
Check,
ma'am.
check. Check. All right, please repeat after me. I, John B. Bridgers,
I, John B. Bridgers,
do solemnly and sincerely swear
do solemnly and sincerely swear
that I will be faithful
I will be faithful
and bear true allegiance
and bear true allegiance
to the state of North Carolina
to the state of North Carolina
and to the constitutional powers and authorities
and to the constitutional powers and authorities
which are or may be
which are or may be
established for the government thereof,
established for the government thereof,
and that I will endeavor
and that I will endeavor
to support, maintain, and defend
to support, maintain, and defend
the Constitution of said state,
the Constitution of said state,
not inconsistent with
not inconsistent with
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
to the best of my knowledge and ability,
to the best of my knowledge and ability.
so help me God.
So help me God.
I, John B. Bridgers,
I, John
do solemnly swear that I will support and maintain
and maintain
the Constitution and laws of the United States
the Constitution and laws of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina,
and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina,
not inconsistent therewith,
not inconsistent therewith,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of my office
the duties of my office
as Burke County Tax Administrator,
as Burke County Tax Administrator.
so help me God.
So help me God.
I, John B. Bridgers,
I, John B. Bridgers,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will
that I will
well and truly
will and truly
execute the duties of the office
execute the duties of the office
of Burke County Tax Administrator
of Burke County Tax Administrator
according to the best of my skill and ability,
according to the best of my skill and ability,
according to law,
according to law,
and that I will not allow
and that I will not allow
my actions as assessor and tax collector
and my actions as assessor and tax collector
to be influenced
to be influenced
by personal
by personal
or political friendships
or political friendships
or obligations.
or obligations.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
John, would you like to say a few words? Nothing like putting somebody on the spot, but
Well, I would like to say that I really appreciate the opportunity to come here, and I think that I've got a really great staff to work with. I think that Danny left me in pretty good hands, so thank you guys, and thank y'all.
thank you, sir. Congratulations. Gentlemen, we'll move on to Pet of the Month, presented by Caitlin Sotomayor, Animal Services Director. Thanks, everybody, for coming. So you're back again, Madam Clerk.
I'm filling in for Caitlin, who is busy taking care of animal-related activities at the shelter, and she will present a cat and dog in need of its forever home at the regular meeting.
Gentlemen, any questions or comments? And without objection, this item will remain on the agenda.
Thank you.
Item number 2, presentation of the Order of the Longleaf Pine Award to Bill Almond. Left one too early.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This is a request to present Mr. Almond with the Order of the Longleaf Pine Award, and Representative Hugh Blackwell and other guests will be here to make that presentation at your regular meeting.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Any questions or comments? And without objection, this item will remain on the agenda. And I believe we do have one more. Yep, Lake James litter, item number 3, Lake James litter cleanup report.
Thank you,
Madam
Mr.
Clerk.
Chairman, members of the board. This is a request to receive a report from Mr. Morgan with the Lake James Area Wildlife Nature Society. I can't see, these are my bifocals. With their recent efforts to clean up Lake James, and we hope to honor them with a commemorative Burke County walking stick in recognition of all the years that they have provided this valuable service to Lake James and its citizens in the county as a whole.
Okay. Any questions or comments? Madam Clerk?
Chairman, Kay, is that one walking stick or to everybody who participated who comes?
Well, I think it will be to whomever comes at the regular meeting.
So it could be many, more than one.
Yes. I expect a few, and he will know, they have a meeting coming up, and he will know exactly how many attendees will be here.
Okay.
I just want to say, I think Johnny and I appreciate those cleanups. They really do a good job at the lake. I mean, I don't know why people trash the lake. Why do they do that? But, I mean, they pick up tons of stuff, and, you know, it really is a great thing to keep that lake pristine, because it is a pristine lake.
I agree. Any other questions or comments?
I wish we could get that movement throughout the rest of the county.
Yes.
My road, I live about the time they get the food at the fast food, and they get it eaten, and then it's thrown out. And
Discarded at your. Any other comments, gentlemen? Then without objection, this item will remain on the agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We'll let you rest now. All right, moving on to item number 4, scheduled public hearings, community development, zoning map amendment, ZMA 2022-02, This will be presented by Mr. Alan Lyons, our Deputy County Manager and Planning Director. Good to see you, Alan.
Thank you, Commissioner Rowley, members of the commission, members of the public. We've had a request received from a Mr. Brian Arrowwood and Scott Blake of Breckenridge Homes to rezone 2 parcels of land totaling 12 acres, a little over 12 acres. The current zoning is rural mixed use, and they would seek residential 2, R2, which is a restrictive single-family or double-wide residential district, and that's what they would like to have approved. The parcels themselves are on Denton's Chapel Road, and the area is a mix of some subdivisions, lots of open rural land, a few businesses, a few churches. If we could scroll down to the first map. This map shows, and here's the parcels, by the way, here's the 12 acres, 2 tracts. This is a land use map, so this is a tool to kind of judge what's happening in that neighborhood right now. In yellow are the single-family residential homes. These are probably stick-built or modular type homes. The orange and the tan, the brown is either a double-wide or a single-wide, so there's kind of a mixed neighborhood, but primarily single-family. But everything in white is basically open pasture type of farmland. This actual tract is a combination of some open space and farm field. Open space and wooded, heavily wooded, actually. If we can see the next slide, please. And here's the aerial land use map. So here's those parcels again. Here's the roadway. So we've got a subdivision here with quite a few homes on it, and there's one just a little further to the north. But this area down here, there's a clear creek running at the rear of this property, and so the biggest portion of that open space there, of this open field, is in the floodway. So there's not going to be any houses built down there. In fact, the developers are interested in keeping that as open space so they could have a little neighborhood amenity for the folks that live up there. We don't have a subdivision plan at this time. We don't have anything like that to review today, but this will allow them to do residential only in this district. We can have the next slide, please. Thank you. So we use the Blueprint Burke strategic plan. It's the 2016 to 2030 plan for future land uses. And this area, of course, is right here again. This part of the county is located in the rural agricultural area. This designation is given to all areas of the county which are not designated as primary growth or secondary growth, those areas that are closest to I-40 and the towns up our way here. So this area is considered rural in nature, still allows a variety of land uses, but there's a focus on the development of additional housing. So that's certainly in the realm of this property for this part of the county. Public water is available in this area, and they intend to tie into public water, but it will okay. The next slide, please. All right, so we've got a mixture of some zoning types in the area. The bright red is that's a general business commercial. This is R3. There's some R2 in this area here, and the other parts are rural mixed use. The rural mixed use focuses on a wide range of residential and commercial activities in rural mixed use. It's meant to be everything from car garages and businesses and commercial enterprises as well as residential. So if the parcel is rezoned to just R2, all that could really happen there are residential uses. So I think to have a little more consistency within this neighborhood, this developer is asking for R2 to be more restrictive, and they're asking for that restriction. So that now and in the future, the residential character is carried forward and preserved. You can do, in the district for R2, stick-built modular and basically double-wide manufactured houses are allowed. Okay. Denton's Chapel Road, the main road through the area there, is a state-maintained road. And staff have, when we received the application, we're pretty excited about it. We're glad to see new housing proposed for the county. We need lots of small-scale developers to build many neighborhoods in our community here. So we've been excited about that component of it. The planning board, there was a number of people who came out, and we notice when we have a rezoning request by state law, we put a Z sign on the property out by the road. We notice all neighbors who touch this land for a distance, and so there was quite a turnout at the planning board meeting. Some folks were concerned about additional traffic along Denton's Chapel Road, what maybe 15 or so homes might mean for traffic. Some folks were worried that they had a well. I believe somebody right in this area has a well very close to where, the line, so to speak, and they were concerned that someone's septic tank might disturb their well. But I believe we have environmental standards and provisions to maintain separation from other people's wells and that sort of stuff built into the state ordinances. Some folks were worried about potential water runoff, and then let's see, somebody did mention that they were worried about crime in the area. So I thought usually more neighbors means more people eyes on the street, so your area is safer. But anyway, they were concerned about crime. So the chairperson thanked everyone for their comments. They answered questions from staff. They asked for a motion. There was a motion to deny it. And so the board voted 4-2 to actually recommend denial for you all. Now, once again, the planners, we're interested in seeing more housing. We think this area could be a great place for that. Don't believe it'll be a detriment to that community out there to have new housing built in that area. So with that, I can answer any questions for you if you like.
Gentlemen, you've heard the presentation. Any questions or comments for Alan?
Mr. Chairman, I have several. Alan, you repeated it, but in your presentation, you noted an urgent need for housing. One of the benefits was reduced lot size requirements. Intends to use the flood zone for other activity. How many of those acres are in that flood zone?
I checked that out today the best I could. I did a measurement of that little area in the floodway. It's almost 2 acres.
2 acres.
About 1.9 acres and some change. But it's a substantial amount of territory there that would be basically offline to development from a housing standpoint. Now, it could be great recreation space, or they mentioned soccer field to the staff. But we would see when that development proposal would come in, we'd see what that would be used for, but about 2 acres.
The average lot size, if we approve this?
The minimum lot size permitted in an R2 is a 0.58 acre, and that translates to about 25,000 square feet. An acre is 4,360 square feet, but we permit lots with a utility to have reduced lot size if they're in the R2. So they would qualify for a minimum of 25,000 square feet. They could go, probably a lot of them will be larger. That usually it's not exactly that number, probably a little larger, but that would be the minimum we would approve. Now, when you're reviewing a development or proposing a development, you lose a fair amount of land just in the road. We require access to each lot. That roadway has to be improved to a minimum standard, and so that doesn't count towards your lots. That's out of your lot area, what's left. Yeah. So there's quite a bit of land that's taken up with the development itself.
This may be a JR question. How about the restrictions that was placed on the property when the owner purchased it, which he promised no more than 6 home sites. There'd be no commercial purposes, no mobile homes or off-site construction home. Only 6 homes are supposed to be built. The possibility of 15 homes, you said the average lot would be just a tad over a half acre.
Yeah.
One of the negatives, and I wanted to bring this up at our last meeting, we continue to go through the process of a lot of this rezoning and fellow property owners and all this. Somebody who doesn't own the land controls the use of the land. That's a little bit of a negative, but evidently, JR, he did sign some agreements, I guess, before the rezoning, and my assumption is, if you rezone it, those restrictions go away, is that correct?
Now, there are private agreements that would stay with the land. Now, it wouldn't be up to the county. We're not, it's not bound on us to impose or assure those restrictions because they're private restrictions. Mm-hmm. It's not our job unless JR feels differently, but we wouldn't normally get involved in those private restrictions. However, we would be, covering our code and ordinances for the, even though he agreed, he signed something to say he wouldn't do a manufactured home, our ordinance would permit it, but it kind of speaks to his intent. Probably he's going to do stick-built, right? So that's my understanding of what he wants to do there.
Let me ask the question another way, if I may. Does rezoning it do away with the restrictions from earlier?
Does not.
Does not.
Travels with the land, so it's not our. That's not our deal, if you will. Really, that's a private matter from landowner to landowner.
Yeah. Probably shouldn't ask this, but we will. I'm not one of the neighbors, but what options do I have if I'm a neighbor and you still want to resist the rezoning? You want to, let me put that another way too.
No, I understand. I understand.
Do you? Okay.
Well, the property was for sale. They could have bought it. That's one option. You always have an option to buy the property that you're concerned about. But they always can come here and let their opinion be heard from you all, to you all, and present their case or their concern. So we were not expecting that result from the neighbors. Actually, going from the many commercial uses that could happen on that 12 acres now, under the rural mixed use, it permits a wide variety of things. I would think that knowing my neighbors are going to be basically single-family style or maybe double-wide, let's say, if they built that, I think that was more of an assurance than the many, many things that could happen on a rural part of our county. So that's my thought on that.
Mr. Chairman, one other comment is that by having water readily available, it appears that the land at some point was intended to be further developed than it is. I guess the only concern, and I'm assuming that looking at the lay of the land, I intended to get by to look at it personally, didn't make it today, but anyhow, is septic, in your opinion, are septic tanks still a problem, a major problem with that?
I would think so. I mean, they have to make it perk, right? So they're going to have to go through our environmental health department regulations, and they will assure that every lot they propose to use will perk to be approved for anything beyond, doing anything with it, basically. So everyone's going to have that work done. I don't know what they've done, if they've done some pre-work or done some initial studies, see what the land's like. But a lot of developers will do that. They will have an environmental scientist check the land out and see if it will perk, not necessarily that spot, but just in general. But they feel confident that something could be worked there without any trouble. But they'll still follow our rules for all that.
If we zoned it with the stipulation of must be a minimum of 1 acre, how many houses would that put in there? Half of the 15, which would be 7 or 8?
We couldn't do that.
Okay.
We can't do that, but that's about what it would result with. You still have to build a street. You have to build a road. And we require a 45-foot right-of-way, if I'm remembering correctly. We want it paved, so it takes up a fair swath down the middle, basically. But it's a good layout for development because you could run that street down the middle and still have some green space at the back and not affect the quality of the creek, that sort of thing.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, if you please. Alan, I need a little bit more clarification if I can. I've read everything I can read about this. I'm trying to understand why the vote was 4-2. I don't understand. Everything I'm reading is it's more restrictive. There's $300,000 homes. We're on a 45-mile-an-hour highway. There's water already provided. We will build homes that will pay taxes, and we will alleviate some housing problems that we got. Everybody will be Jeff's neighbors. He'll be tickled to death. Am I missing something here? Is it the fact that 8 people came in and said something and the committee just voted no? It's okay.
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead
can't
and
add
say
any
it.
more to that. I think we're used to talking about the needs for the county. We're kind of in that's our parlance, that's what we talk about a lot. And I think this, the Blueprint Burke plan is something that we are gonna revisit with a small committee, and we'll take it to the planning board, and it'll have facts in there and information about where things are today and what we need. And I think maybe just folks, everybody needs to be on the same page that we need residential development here in order to support our schools, our manufacturing, keep our place vital and active and successful, frankly.
So everything I just mentioned is true.
Yeah.
My train of thought, and I couldn't find anything else that would make me think differently, right?
Correct. I didn't either. I mean, I'll look for the weak spots in our argument because I need to defend them with you all and in the public. And in this case, I didn't feel like we had something that was of concern. But I know people, when their community changes, it's a rural road, it's a beautiful little road down there, and it kind of goes up and down, but there's a lot of farms, and I imagine that things are changing in somewhat, people, in slow ways, small ways, but people get concerned about change, so.
Any other questions or comments for Alan on this subject? Alan, great presentation. Thank you, sir. Then, gentlemen, without objection, this item will remain on the consent agenda, or on the agenda, I'm sorry. Now, moving on to the consent agenda, item number 1, Board of Commissioners proclamation declaring April 16th through 30th, 2022 to a spring litter sweep. This will be presented by our Vice Chairman, Johnny Carswell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I take great pride in fussing about trash, and I will once again fuss about trash in Burke County. I do that every month, 2 times a month, as much as I can, but we do each year have a proclamation declaring North Carolina spring litter sweep, and this year that is April the 16th through the 30th, declared by Governor Roy Cooper. I wish we could have it every week, but again, this is, I hope the board will consider this proclamation as such, and we vote to do this. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Carswell. Gentlemen, thoughts, questions, comments for? All right, I think we're all in agreement on this one. Then, without objection, this item will remain on the consent agenda. Item number 2, appointments to the Parks and Recreation Commission. This will be presented by Madam Clerk, Mrs. Kay Drone. I'm glad to see we're getting some more appointments to the Parks and Rec Department because we have struggled to get those.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This is a request to appoint Jonathan Carter to seat number 4, representing Valdez Rutherford College area on the Parks and Recreation Commission. Doug Knight retired, who was with the Valdez Recreation Department, and the term would be to complete an unexpired term ending March 31st, 2023. We're also requesting the appointment of Tabitha Hallman, seat number 5, George Hildebrand, to a term ending March 31, 2024, and the appointment of Ricky Barnes to seat number 6, Hildebrand Eichert, to fill that seat with a term ending March 31, 2023.
Gentlemen, you've heard Madam Clerk. Any comments, questions?
Excellent candidates. I believe we ought to draft them before they back out.
I agree. Anything else, gentlemen? Okay, without objection, this item will remain on the consent agenda. All right. Item number 3, Madam Clerk, removal from nursing home adult care CAC.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This is a request to remove Deborah Cooper from the Nursing Home Adult Care Community Advisory Committee due to a resignation.
Okay, gentlemen, questions, comments from Madam Clerk on this item?
Mr. Chair, one question. Kay, do we know from the ombudsman if this committee has been able to go back into the rest homes to start their review of each one of those yet?
No, I believe they are still not going in the homes, and that Ms. Franklin is working on, if you will remember, their training hours increased significantly due to that legislation that was passed a while back. So I think she's working on getting that training together.
Thank you, ma'am. I think I'm going to approach the health department and see if the health department, we need to probably revisit that legislation that should not have passed to begin with. That I think we were doing a fine job before, and I think that the nursing homes have seen some decline in because of the COVID issues that have afflicted them. There are a lot of people not working, obviously, in the rest home arena, and personally, I think we need to take another look at some things. Thank you, ma'am.
I agree. Our most vulnerable population has been without a voice during one of the most worst times when they needed an advocate.
Gentlemen, any other comments? Well, then without objection, this item will remain on the consent agenda. Thank you, Madam Clerk. All right, moving on to item number 4. This will be presented by Brian Steen, our County Manager, proclamation declaring May 5th, 2022 as National Day of Prayer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, we have been doing this, I believe, for a number of years to go ahead and do a proclamation declaring a date for National Day of Prayer, and we have that again before you for 2022.
Questions, comments, gentlemen?
Praise the Lord and amen. And do we know if we are allowed to send a copy of this resolution to Burke County churches?
It's a public document. You can send it.
Do we have to make that motion so you'll have the expense money to do it, or should we add that to the motion, Kay?
Oh, now, if you're wanting it mailed, it's still a public document, but that would be a tremendous undertaking. There's probably 50, 100,000 churches or more
100,000.
in Burke County. Well, there's a church on every corner, so
Let's call it.
literally.
Call it 500, but still, that would be
I
a
could-
pretty impossible task with
I
cost.
could email it to, I have a pretty extensive email list of area pastors, and I could share it with them and ask them to share it with their memberships and share it with the, like the Baptist Association and the Methodist Associations and those type entities. I can do that.
Okay.
I think it'd be wonderful.
Nothing would prevent the commissioners from doing that, or Kay from doing that on their behalf.
I didn't hear him, did you?
He said that nothing would prohibit us from allowing Kay to do that, so she
Okay.
can do that.
Right. I was just thinking for future generations it been part of the motions, but that's fine, just as long as I get it.
Gentlemen, any other comments? And without objection, this item will remain on the consent agenda. We'll move on to item number 5, termination of development agreement with Glamping Lake James LLC, and this will be presented once again by Mr. Steen, our county manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, you'll remember some months ago, we entered into an agreement with a gentleman to do this project. And in that agreement, it had the requirements that certain plans would have to be brought before us and would have to be reviewed and approved by the Technical Advisory Committee. And we've had several meetings with the vendor, made him aware of the things that needed to be done. Apparently, he got to a point, possibly financially, that he was not going to be able to satisfy us with meeting those requirements. And we have now come to the point where it's a voluntary termination, and I think it would be appropriate to return any rental funds that he's paid to the county, as long as it's not some legal issue with doing that. I don't think it's even $5,000, is it, Margaret? Okay, but again, both parties entered in good faith, and unfortunately, regrettably, it's not going to be able to go forward with the current vendor, and we need to open the door for other interested parties, if there are some, to move forward with the dream and desire of this board for the provision of these kinds of services.
Thank you, Mr. Steen. Gentlemen, questions, comments on this item?
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple. The main question I had was any reasons given for not proceeding per the contract, Brian?
Well, in the original thinking, they had in the document about the width of a road. And then when we got further along in the process, the fire marshal said that was not consistent with the requirements, the minimum requirements of the state fire code. And this would increase the project costs for the vendor, and he was not agreeable to that. And we told him, said, no, we can't alter state fire code. It will have to be built to the minimum of the state fire code. And that is some of the problems that just ultimately led us to that he couldn't do the project.
I have a purpose for asking this question. It never was mentioned that COVID issues was to blame?
No, sir. This was cost for infrastructure and following all of our development requirements.
So as I understand it, budgeting effects will be $5,000 plus the $3,753 for refund equals $8,733 to the budget.
The only thing I'm aware of is whatever rental payments he has made would be refunded back to him since the project was not able to go forward. Margaret, do you have a number on that?
So he would lose the lease agreement of $6,545, which were site planning or developer dollars.
Yeah, the site planning was his own responsibility as the vendor wanting to go forward. We're not suggesting to repay him that, just the approximately $5,000 that he actually paid in monthly rental fees to the county.
And from my understanding, you said he was happy with this agreement.
Well, he'd like to have had all the money, but we told him there's just no legal way that I can bring that to y'all and ask y'all to do that. The rental monies, I feel that's appropriate to do that in good faith with this gentleman.
So we strike happy and say he is in agreement with the agreement.
He's agreeable to it.
Okay. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Gentlemen, any other questions or comments on this item? And without objection, this item will remain on the consent agenda. We'll move on to item number 6, community development, accept the Jumping Run Trail easement. This will be presented by our friend Shane Prisby, Operations Manager. Hey, Shane.
How are you doing, Mr. Chairman? Members of the board, thank you all very much for your time. The Community Development Department has been working with the developers of the Jumping Run subdivision, now the Lakeside Reserve subdivision, in eastern Burke County on a trail easement for the Burke River Trail. The Burke River Trail is a proposed trail to connect the communities in eastern Burke from Morganton to the Hickory Airport and beyond. This project is in the early planning stages with the Western Piedmont Council of Governments as the point agency for the project, While construction is likely a ways off, there is an opportunity to secure a much-needed trail easement to construct the trail in the future, and the county would have the option to transfer the trail easement to another entity to construct or operate the trail in the future. Welcome any questions you may have on this agreement.
Gentlemen, you've heard Shane. Questions, comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
what is our total participation in this project? What are we going to be required to do?
At this point, that is still up to us to decide what our level of involvement is. There are some preliminary maps. We've been part of some preliminary meetings. My understanding is that some municipalities had some funding appropriated for them to do some planning for it. So as I said, it's pretty much in the early stages. And I think there's interest in developing an entity to carry this on. So that would evolve over time, and that's a decision that we could make in the future. This is one of the preliminary routes went through where this subdivision is being proposed and under development. So we saw it as an opportunity. The county could take it over, hold on to the easement, which essentially is an extension of the existing right-of-way, which gets it up out of a ditch onto level ground where a trail could be developed at some point in the future. To answer your question, Commissioner Carswell, it's really it's us jumping on an opportunity to have this easement, not let that go, and then figure out where we fit into the grand scheme of this project down the road.
So is there a lead entity, and is the state interested in helping out on the trail?
I'm not sure about that,
Okay.
the state's involvement at this point. I do know Western Piedmont Council of Governments, I believe, is looking to hire somebody to staff a position to help develop it. But that's about as far as I know at my level of involvement.
Gentlemen, any other questions or comments on this? Shane, there's no negative to doing this, I can see.
I feel the same as you. I think it ultimately, we'll pay a filing fee of about $27. That usually comes out of our regular budget for operation. And then we can sit on it as long as we need to, and we can hand it over to whoever's interested in developing this. Or that's how I feel about it. I think it's a great opportunity, and I'm glad that the developer is interested in working with us on this for the future.
Thank you, Shane.
Thank you very much.
Gentlemen, without objection, this item will remain on the consent agenda. We'll move on to item number 7, acceptance of recycling grant to improve efficiency for the East Burke Convenience Site, presented by Mark Dillahunt, General Service Director. Mark, how are you, my friend?
Just fine. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I was notified last Wednesday afternoon that we received a grant that I applied for back in February. Purpose of this grant is to make recycling more user-friendly for the citizens and less expensive for the local governments providing that service. Most of you have visited our convenience sites and have seen the 2 compactors we use for collecting household waste. The plan is to include a 3rd compactor for what is called single-stream recycling. Simply put, the citizens will be able to commingle or mix paper, plastic, aluminum, and tin cans rather than having to sort it. Additionally, we'll be hauling compacted cans and bottles to the recycling facility in Conover rather than uncrushed cans and bottles. This should result in heavier loads and fewer trips. I'll be happy to answer any question you may have.
Gentlemen, you've read the presentation and heard the presentation. Any questions or comments for Mark?
Mr. Chairman, not a question, but a comment. I'd like to say hallelujah. My wife will take bulbs, especially fluorescent bulbs, and they'll return them. She'll take them back the second time, be another person on duty, and they take them. But we do need a proper way to dispose of light bulbs at our convenience centers. It is, that kind of glass can get in your eye and you not even know it for a couple of days. It's a real safety precaution, so it's time at least one of the convenience sites has one of these. So
Now, this will not include fluorescent bulbs.
I thought it said so in your.
It's glass bottles. Oh, okay, in the grant, yes. I have in my, as a county, we're required to recycle our own fluorescent bulbs that we use in the county buildings as we take them out. And I have what's called a bulb crusher in my budget this year that we can properly dispose of them. And that'll be at landfill. Now, providing this at the different convenience sites will be something I have to look at.
Okay. I thought I read that in your presentation.
Again, the bulb crusher, I can have in my budget. It'll be available for the public to use, but only at the landfill. They're quite expensive, and to have one at all the convenience sites. The other option would be our staff trying to transport them to the landfill to be properly disposed of, which that would be a whole nother program to try to put together.
All right. But anyway, that, if we don't have, we need to take a look at that. So
Yes, sir.
Gentlemen, any other questions, comments for Mark? Mark, thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, sir.
I don't know if I misread, but I was thinking I saw that with the compactor, we're currently taking 5 loads and it'll compact it down to 1 load.
I brought a little visual with me. This is what we're hauling now, and this is what we can haul up and down the road as it's compacted.
Taking out 4 trips for mileage, wear and tear on the trucks, labor hours, and fuel. That is a tremendous return to the citizens in our budget as a reduction.
Especially with the price of diesel.
excuse me, Mark, it's on page 90. Certification regarding mercury products recycling. It does mention fluorescent lights.
Excuse me?
Page 90,
Okay.
under certification regarding mercury product recycling.
Right, and if I'm not mistaken, that's referring to the stuff we generate as a municipality.
It says maintain compliance with state requirements for proper disposal of fluorescent lights and thermostats that contain mercury.
Correct, and that's what we generate as a county, and I don't think we're mandated to offer that to the citizens so much as we are, in fact, mandated to recycle what we produce or dispose of as a municipality.
And that bulb crusher will be, like you said, at the,
Yeah, I did plan on offering that, but at the landfill because they're expensive and transporting, and that would be another issue. There's this bulb crusher I'm talking about. It's actually a 50-gallon drum with a thing. You feed the tube bulb into it, and it filters the gas that's inside the tube that is harmful. And then when the drum gets full, we dispose of that properly.
But each site does not have that. Excuse me.
We could certainly go that route, and I'd be willing to entertain that at your pleasure.
That's all I have, Mr.
Mr. Chair, excuse me, we need to amend the motion on this item. We don't have the match currently in the budget, so you'll need to appropriate funds for that. They'll need to come from the general fund balance.
This grant, it's not even started till July 1, and my assumption that it would help to offset the cost of the Eastburg convenience site as we go towards developing that. But she's correct, these will have to be, I guess, set aside.
so you're saying we need to move this item or just amend?
Just amend the motion to address that we've got to appropriate funds for the match. We do not have the match in the budget.
And that match, once again, remind us, is
$14,230 according to this. It's $30,000 from the state, and the other match portion has to come from the county. And there are no funds in the solid waste budget for that, so they'll need to be appropriated in order to accept the award.
sounds well worth it. Gentlemen?
So Margaret, I'm looking at the motion before us for the budgetary effect. It says the local match is included in the current budget. So Mark, are you saying you was anticipating putting it in the next year's budget?
That is correct, and we cannot begin any work or do any procurement until July 1. So I'm not the finance person, so I'll leave that with Margaret if it needs to be approved as part of this.
So Margaret, do we need to approve it now, or we need to just put it in the budget,
Next year's budget,
next year's budget.
if we're not gonna need it now, we could leave it on the consent agenda. Is there any problem with that?
I mean, I think you can leave it on the consent agenda, but just amend the motion to address that we need to appropriate funds for it.
Out of
In
this
order
year's
to
budget.
accept it and pre-audit it, I have to have the funds identified. I can't identify them as hopefully gonna be in next year's budget. They have to be identified in here.
Okay,
I had sent that to Mark when I got the information about the grant award, and we must not have communicated clearly.
okay. So we do need to make that, budget amendment in this motion.
We'll amend the motion, and it can still stay in consent agenda as far as I know.
Okay.
So it's, again, $14,000 and you're getting 30, and then you're saving money for the rest of the life of that machine. You don't get very many opportunities like this. This is a good deal.
And we are eligible, I think the agency giving these grants, you can get a maximum of 2 of them, so I'll be repeating this effort down the road.
Mr. Chairman, it can come out of either budget. It's just wherever you think you're gonna have the most budget, what's most feasible. Because whatever you budget this year can be carried over and spent next year. So I guess that's a finance question. Wherever it would best suit and be better off for the county's budget would be the best.
Exactly. And as Margaret said, she just needs to be able to identify that. Any other objection or questions or comments on this? Mr. Carswell, you look,
That's right, I'm fine.
okay?
Thank you.
Then without objection, this item will remain on the consent agenda. Moving on to item number 8, 2021 State of the County Health Report presented by Jay Moore, Health Education Supervisor. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you all?
Great.
Good afternoon, Chair and the board. Thank you all for allowing me to be here. I'm just going to share some highlights from the 2021 State of the County Health Report. The State of the County Health Report is like a snapshot analysis of the current health of the county. This report is performed in the years between community health assessments, and we are currently in the process of conducting the 2022 community health assessment. Just looking over the report, the demographics of the county have not changed very much over the year. We have seen a slight total number living in Burke County, an increase in that area. The median age of our population is around 44.3 years old. And let's see. Okay, moving on to the leading causes of death in the county. In 2017, diseases of the heart was #1 cause of death. That has now moved to #2 leading cause of death, and cancer has taken place of that. Let's see, okay. And another area that we are to report on are emerging issues. Back in the late spring, early summer of 2021, Burke County had the highest rate of person-to-person transmission of hepatitis A in the entire state. We like to be known for a lot of things, and that is not one of them. But the health department, along with Morganton Public Safety, teamed up along with some other local partners, to formulate a prevention initiative. They set out some goals, such as reducing the occurrence of Hep A in Burke residents who met high-risk criteria. They collaborated with community partners and health agencies to provide unbiased and inclusive support to Burke County residents, educating residents of the county on communicable diseases and the resources that are available for prevention and treatment. And we were successful at achieving all of those goals. As of January 2022, Burke had dropped from that #1 spot to 2.3 cases per 100,000. So that currently places us as 18th in the state. And Moving down in the report, COVID-19, while that is not an emerging issue in 2021, it was an ongoing issue. While the pandemic has slowly tapered down and is coming to an end, we are very thankful for that. We currently are seeing, the most current cumulative case count we have in the county as of April the 1st was 25,305 cases. Percent 5 and older, the percent of the county 5 and older who is fully vaccinated is currently sitting at 49%. The number of new cases that we are seeing continues to remain low. Thankfully, we see around 10 or less cases within the week. Let's see. And then as of April the 1st, media briefings have ceased. So all of this information is displayed on the COVID-19 dashboard. If you are interested in reading further, currently that dashboard is still updated as of Tuesdays and Thursdays. We are also to note progress from the 2019 Community Health Assessment. The two priority areas that we were focusing on were substance use disorder. COVID really exacerbated the issue we were seeing with substance use disorder. So just a lot of the progress that had been made with the adult drug court, getting people connected in with treatment. All of that kind of came to a halt once COVID hit, and a lot of people reverted back to former habits. We are slowly undoing some of the damage that COVID has brought about. The adult drug court is going really well. It is scheduled to hit their target program participant number by the end of the grant year, which is December 2022. If everything goes accordingly, we will also graduate 4 new participants by the end of the year. And let's see. And then drug-free Burke, which is also the in-school education. They are doing really well with going into the middle school and the high schools, doing some Narcan training with those school nursing staff, and doing some education within the student setting. As far as heart disease and stroke, due to the increase of COVID cases that we saw in 2021, we had plans on formulating some stroke education classes and some tobacco cessation classes with those that are diagnosed with heart disease or stroke as preventive measures. But we had to put those on hold until we can offer those safely in person. Those kind of classes are just better done in person versus virtual. So the virtual hospital was developed also during the pandemic. As of 2021, there were over 4,500 patients that were enrolled in the virtual health unit. The original design of the virtual health unit was to assist COVID positive patients to recover at home, because we all just kind of do better when we are able to be in our environment and recovering from an illness. And so this unit has now expanded to better serve patients as they transition from solely based COVID care to other health diagnoses such as asthma, COPD, and pneumonia. Let's see. And at this time, I'll wrap up my presentation and open the floor for any questions or comments.
Shay, thank you. Any questions, comments? Great report.
Thank you.
Yep, then we may have some.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Can't let you get
Mr.
away
Chairman,
that easy.
a couple of quick questions. 2 of them very complimentary. Wayne, did you look at that life expectancy?
I did.
76.7.
I'm beating the odds.
You're beating it. Also, I noticed you used 2019 figures for the population, and the 2020 census has that lower, and at 87, I believe 540, somewhere around that. medium household income was 47. And that's, that is counting both earners of the household, which means they're averaging right at 24,000 apiece. Is that correct? The other thing, and the biggest question I had, is you show high school or equivalent at 31.4%. And I think I read in the paper, Sharon, just within the last few months that for some study showed Byrd County at, I believe, 91 point some percent of graduation of people who were attending school. So that really seems low. I don't know if which report is accurate. I couldn't tell you at this time. And the other, Mr. Chairman, is a message to all Byrd County citizens. 42.5% of deaths in Byrd County are from cancer or heart disease. Take note. Take care of your body. That's all I had.
Gentlemen, any other questions, comments? John?
I'd just like to make a comment. I'd like to compliment Che. We are very fortunate in the health department now. We've got young, energetic people that are now employed over there with the hiring of Danny Scalise. There's been some revamping of that department over there. We're getting information much quicker than we did before. And these young folks are energetic out there working collaboratively with UNC over to hospital. And we're on the right track. COVID really killed us. It knocked us down really, really bad, and the health department wasn't able to do what we wanted to do. But now we're back on track. And I think within the next 24 months, we'll see a total change. There's other issues out in the county that we need to take a long, hard look at, but we're on the right track now. When you see all of these increases in median household incomes and see how many people are now, on SNAP benefits and food stamps, those numbers are changing. Corey Fisher-Wellman at DSS is doing an exceptional job, so I'm very proud of what we've done over there. So kudos to you, Che, for what you've done. Great reports. Hang in there. It will change.
Thank you.
At some point, maybe that workspace will look a little different.
Oh, it looks different. As of last Friday, yes.
Yeah, that
Looks
building's not in the best condition, but we appreciate what you're able to accomplish. Any other questions, comments for Shay?
Just that I thoroughly enjoyed reading the report. Very good report.
Thank you.
Absolutely, great presentation. And without objection, gentlemen, this item will remain on the consent agenda. Next is proclamation declaring May is Mental Health Month, and this will be presented by Katie. Hope I don't miss part of that. I thought I had it. Being more we, I know I get mine said about 4 different ways. So
it's rare that someone gets it right, so I appreciate you trying.
Absolutely.
Well, good afternoon to all of you. And what I would like to say about this proclamation is that stigma is one of the biggest barriers to people seeking treatment. And by proclaiming May as Mental Health Month, we're helping to reduce that stigma publicly. And that can enable somebody to reach out for help that might not have ordinarily done so. The other thing about this is we're declaring May Mental Health Month. We're not declaring May Mental Health Challenge Month, because your brain is an organ, just like any other organ in your body that needs to be taken care of. And if we're approaching it from a perspective of let's talk about brain health, it's a little bit different than the approach of just looking at mental health challenges or waiting until stage 4, as we like to say in the mental health world, which is if a person has cancer, we wouldn't wait until they're at stage 4 for them to reach out for help. But oftentimes we do that in the case of behavioral health situations. A person ends up in crisis before they are ever seen for any kind of preventative care or maintenance for their behavioral health. So with that being said, I appreciate you guys taking this proclamation into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Gentlemen? Any questions, comments for Katie?
Mr. Chairman, Dr. Vornado, if I may.
Yes.
What is, yeah, this is kind of out there. What is the state of mental health? Are we getting better? Are we getting worse in the mental health arena? Are we providing services for people that need it? Are they able to get in touch with providers?
Well, I can speak for partners, and that's the limited data set that we have as far as like claims data. And what we're seeing is we are having our penetration rates increasing in the counties that I serve. So we are serving more people that are Medicaid eligible. At a state level, we're seeing suicides decrease, and that's an interesting decrease. So if you're looking at depression and suicide, the trend in the statistics is that it is decreasing. Now, as far as the validity or reliability of that data, I can't really speak to that because of how suicide deaths are reported. But as far as substance use, we are seeing a trend up in that, and that's evidenced by the Narcan use. So we're seeing more and more requests for Narcan, and Narcan delivered at a higher rate, where a few years ago it took 1 dose of Narcan to reverse an overdose, and now we're looking at 2 to 4 doses. And that's serious when we're talking about potentially having a shortage on Narcan, and it's showing us that there is a trend not only in substance use, but also the severity and the, I guess the type of drugs that people are using it's more lethal. So I don't know if that answered anything in a roundabout kind of way. So.
Kind of a side note, you're talking about Narcan, I don't know what this, do you have any idea how much, so when people read the paper and they say, okay, we see all these, all this Narcan administered, how much is the Narcan, per dose? Just out of curiosity, do you know that? Maybe something you do not know.
Well, it depends. A person that has Medicaid can actually go to the pharmacy and get Narcan. It's a standing order. So anybody that has Medicaid can go into a pharmacy and get a prescription for Narcan, get it filled. So I would like to put that out there publicly. If a person is uninsured, it's about $80 a dose the last time I checked. And if a person has private insurance, it's whatever their copay is.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Great information. Then without objection, gentlemen, this item will remain on the consent agenda. We'll move on to item number 10, tax collection report for March 2022. This will be presented by, well, either Dawn or John, either one, or both. Well, we get both. Great.
Well, I'm going to do it, but Dawn's going to be here to hold my hand. So in your packet, you see the collections versus the budget. Year to date, we have collected $45,117,241.80, and that is 100.26% of what's budgeted. So we're $117,241.80 collected over what was budgeted. Motor vehicle tax, it was $4 million. We've collected $4,137,799.84, and that is 79.57% collected. We still balance to collect is $1,062,200.16. For the current year taxes, total collected is at $49,255,041.64, and that is 98.12% of the budget amount, with $944,958.36 yet to collect of what was budgeted. Delinquent taxes collected is $659,695.91, and that is 94.24% of what's budgeted. Yet to be collected is $40,304.09. Penalty and interest collected year to date is $306,962.77, and that is 97.45% collected. And yet to be collected is $8,037.23. In the collections versus the levy, year-to-date, we've got, as I said, $45,117,240, $45,117,241.80, and that is 97.45% of the budget, of the levy. And balance to collect is $1,180,773.88.
Thank you, John. Gentlemen, any questions, comments on the tax collection report? If not, without objection, this item will remain on the consent agenda. We'll move on to release refund report.
Okay, in your agenda, in your packet, you have the report that shows $1,349.01. Rebills of that was $503.27. Net release amount was $845.74, and a refund of $290.87. And that's for property. And for vehicles, the refund amount was $111.39.
Gentlemen, you've heard the report, the release refund report. Any comments?
Mr. Chairman, no comment on that, but I'd like to back up just 1 second. This may be a John or Margaret question. The current year tax is on the tax collection report. Would it be reasonable to assume that we may be 20% plus over for the year, given that we're at almost 100% at the end of March?
I'm happy to take that one for him. Your collection slowed down significantly, obviously, in this part of the year. We will be over 100%. It would be hard to gauge at this point exactly how much over. That is only the property tax section. Keep in mind, our budget is actually for both together, motor vehicles and property tax. So if our motor vehicles falls low, they net together. Does that explain that well, or at all?
So the current year taxes, is that I didn't add those columns up, but I guess it is. That's the 2 columns above added together?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, I got you.
So the 98% is actually where we are, depending on how the motor vehicles go and additional collections on current year.
Okay, thank you.
Gentlemen, any specific questions on the refund report?
Mr. Chairman, I got one. I've always wanted to ask this, and how long do businesses have to let you know that they've closed?
I tell you, most of the times they don't let us know.
That's what I thought.
You know, when we start working on delinquents, Carol will look at the state to see if they're closed. She'll call them, you know, and at that point, if they've been late listing them and they're out of business, we'll go ahead and get rid of the bills.
Do we charge them any kind of penalty for not letting us know they closed?
If they're closed, they'll release the bill.
Okay.
There's really no way to charge them a penalty because they're not going to pay it anyway.
They're not going to pay it. All I'd ask.
Good question. Any other comments, questions, gentlemen, on this item? Then without objection, this item will remain on the consent agenda. We'll move on to the order to advertise 2021 delinquent real property taxes.
Okay, under the general statutes, the county has to advertise in a newspaper of general circulation in the county any unpaid property taxes that are not paid as of February 28th of that current year. And so, and you see in the top line on the packet there, the property tax amount to be collected is $43,575,745.24. We have collected as of February 28th, 96.83% of that, with a balance to collect of $1,485,960.94. $424,254.76. So what we're asking is permission to advertise this.
Gentlemen, you've heard the presentation. Any questions or comments for John or Dawn on this item?
This is for the advertising?
Yes, sir.
Delinquent?
Yes, sir. This is advertising.
That's 122 pages that you presented, that you'll be advertising that are delinquent.
It's always generally about 6 pages in the newspaper. It's about 4,300 names.
Okay, may I ask the question, I don't ever remember getting the number, the actual dollar numbers for all the delinquents. Do you have that number?
Well, what we advertised would be the 1,424,254.76, but the only thing that's advertised is real property.
Does that advertising include more than just last year? Does it have a back?
No,
It's just fiscal year
21.
Just the preceding year? Okay. Thank you. That answered the question.
And as she said, it does not include personal property and business personal property.
Okay. Gentlemen, any other questions, comments? Thank y'all very much. Without objection, this item will remain on the consent agenda. And lucky Sandy gets to go dead last here. Western Piedmont Community College Capital Improvement Project Approval, presented by Sandy Holman, our Western Piedmont Community College's Chief Financial Officer, and this will be pertaining to Regional Emergency Services Training Center. How are you?
I am good. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the board. I hope y'all are doing well this afternoon. And I know I am last on your agenda, so I will try to be quick. And I apologize if I go over information that you've already heard, but I'll give you a summary. In the 21-22 biennial budget, when that was passed, Western Piedmont Community College was awarded a grant from the OSBM, the Office of State Budget and Management, to relocate our Emergency Service Training Center. Our current Emergency Service Training Center has been very good, and it's served us well, and we certainly appreciate the Commissioner's support of that. This training center, and I'll kind of give you a little bit of what we're hoping to build and what we currently have. So we'd like to have a classroom office complex that's between 10,000 and 12,000 square feet, whereas we currently have 2,625 square feet of classroom space, which is 2 portable classroom buildings that we had brought in. A 5-story burn building with a footprint of about 40 by 40. Currently, we have a 1-story burn building, and I'll remind the commissioners that part of the requirements for fire training is that they do train on a multi-story burn building, and currently we're going to Cleveland Community College as one where we can get that training for our students. The 5-story burn building will give us the ability to train on a multi-story burn building, but also the ability to train very high where you can rappel off of the roof as needed, so that's additional training that we'd have opportunity to provide. Approximately 4 acres of paved surface for driving. Right now, we currently have a 400 by 400 driving pad. What we're looking at is we could do a driving pad, or we may even could do a driving pathway to where it's not just one single pad. It would be more of a driving surface that would give more opportunities for training, especially driving those fire trucks, which they still won't let me drive, and I don't understand that, but maybe they will soon. And then also the ability to have swift water rescue training in an area, and of course that will be dependent upon the site, but we offer a lot of training with water now. You know, we have Lake James nearby, we have a lot of rivers, we have the national parks, that we do have a lot of rescue opportunities given to our folks here in the area, and so we definitely want to be a regional training facility for those. So I'll move on, and with part of this building, the money for the construction will be part of that grant from OSBM of $15 million. Building a new facility, we also still have to go through the process with the North Carolina Community College system and the State Construction Office, and that is completing a capital improvement project approval form, or a 3-1 form, for our system office, and part of that is obtaining a local certification of support from the county. And this is based on General Statute 115D, where the county provides maintenance, security, cleaning, insurance for facilities of the college. And so on page 4 of what you have there is where the county would support or provide, or say they are going to provide support for this facility. And then the last page is the estimated operating / utility annual cost. Again, this is a broad ballpark estimate because we don't know where things are going to go, and this is looking 2 years out. Fiscal year 24, we're estimating that we'll be open hopefully during that year, but probably not a full year. And then we've got fiscal years 25, 26, 27, and 28. The average annual cost, again, is an estimate for this facility of $65,803. That takes into account housekeeping, custodial staff, supplies, maintenance to take care of the facilities, plant maintenance items such as your grass seed, your gas for equipment that you have there, materials inside of the classrooms, painting, light bulbs, all of that. And then operating costs, which is your utilities, electrical, fuel, water, telecommunications. And so that is an estimate there, and we are requesting that support from the county to support the facility. And again, this is just an estimate. As we get closer to opening the facility, we'll know more, and we'll plan that within the budget request for those years. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Succinctly done. I know all the planning that's been going on into this, and I think that hit the highlights. Gentlemen, questions?
Yes, is that $65,802 and change? Will that be budgeted over a single year or 2 years?
That is the estimated annual cost for the facilities. That will be an annual request built into our county budget request once the facility is open. And again, that
So
at the
that
earliest
will
would be
be-
fiscal year 2024.
That will be reoccurring expenses every year added to.
That will, and I will, as a disclaimer, with the facility, even it's replacing the current facility, but on the capital improvement project, we have to put just the cost that we estimate for this facility. So once we're done at the current facility, there should be cost savings that you would not have at that current facility anymore. But this is, if you were just looking at this facility brand new, the estimated cost is $65,000 annually.
Okay, where, on what proximity of the property will it be located?
It's currently not slated to be located on the Western Piedmont campus. We are looking at several sites to evaluate the effectiveness of each site with the programs that we want to offer, but also mainly that swift water component. We'd love to find the site location that would be perfect for both and have them located there together jointly. And so we're looking at several sites at this moment.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Commissioner Taylor. Any other questions, comments?
Just for fun, Sandy, do you have any idea what the current operating cost is at the facility?
Currently, the operating cost at the facility we have now is probably around $25,000. Again, it's located on our campus, so it's a little bit easier for maintenance and custodial staff to get there without much of a delay. And it's much smaller than what we're looking at. And so that is mostly, a majority of that is in utilities.
And it is much needed. We've been putting a lot of planning in this going on almost 4 years, I believe. Am I wrong on that? And so we've been looking at a lot of different sites. We're honing it down a little bit, but the whitewater component is what's really going to make it attractive for the whole southeast region. And, you know, we've had challenges with the existing ETC over there, and one of them being a multi-story building, just a small component like that. Most folks say, well, why don't you go ahead and build one there? Well, you can't, because the soil composition will not allow it.
We did, and we actually, the county was very supportive of that and had allocated some money several years ago. And after doing some bore samples and that kind of thing, it just was not going to be, it was going to be cost prohibitive.
And actually, this is going to be good, well, not only for the county, but the college, and also the School of Science and Math, the School for the Deaf. Everybody is in agreement with this on Broughton Hospital, because that was obviously a main feature when we were doing the original planning. to get that moved at some point. And now that we have the funding from the state part, they've been very generous, and we're looking at other funds too to really build this out into a world-class facility. And so we'll keep y'all apprised as we find out more.
And we have no way to anticipate how many more people will be using a very nice, larger building that we'll be able to charge more for the services that we provide. Correct?
We do have several regional classes that we operate now, some training facility or exercises, but we do anticipate that number increasing dramatically with this facility. And I think, as has been mentioned before, when we have those regional training exercises, those are usually multi-day exercises, and that's just more money coming into the county with them staying at area hotels and that kind of thing.
And we are still doing most of the swift water training in North Carolina in our area, correct?
Western North Carolina, yes, definitely.
Any other questions, comments, gentlemen? Sandy, great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Without objection, this item will remain on the consent agenda. Well, gentlemen, there are no items for decision today, so we'll move on to reports. I would ask all of you to please send in your reports to the clerk for inclusion in the agenda packet. Just a few courtesy reminders. The county offices are closed on April 15th in observance of Good Friday, so happy Easter. It's already here. It's unbelievable that's come up so quickly. We have the honor to host the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners district meeting. This will be for districts 13 and 15. That'll be located at the Community House on April 28th at 5:30. We expect a good crowd. So we'd love to have all of the commissioners here. And Johnny, you want to?
Mr. Chairman, at this point, if you allow me,
Yes,
I want
sir.
to thank Commissioner Taylor. I want to thank yourself, Mr. Chairman, Margaret, Brian, those that attended the ARPA opioid summits in Greensboro last week, 2 days. Probably the best 2 days that we've ever had in the NCACC for presentations. I think we all learned a lot. Unfortunately, it was not recorded. The only thing we have is pictures from it. So those that attended, I think we learned a lot and had a good time. And I just want to personally thank you for your participation in those 2 days of events.
Thank you, Commissioner Carswell. And so, we are going to be inviting our state legislators and senators. And Kay, I do want to reach out while I'm thinking about it and reach out to Congressman McHenry as well to see if we can get him to attend that as well. And as far as next item, we got some birthdays, gentlemen. I want to ask you how old you are. Wayne, he was April Fool's birthday. So hopefully you had a profitable and good birthday. Maynard, April 7th, happy birthday as well. And so I heard you mention both of you exceeded the health department's life expectancy, so I think that tells us a lot right there. But happy birthdays, and I did walk in the back earlier, and I think Madam Clerk had some. You opened the cupcakes in the back, and that strawberry smell was permeating. So I'm surprised Wayne's still sitting here. I thought he would be back there eating one of those by now. But happy birthday, gentlemen.
Thank you.
So hopefully many more. Also, as Johnny's mantra is, please don't litter and secure your loads when you're going to the convenience sites. And also spay or neuter your pets. And please adopt a pet from Animal Services. People have really been doing a good job of that, but there are plenty of lovable animals down there to make your home more enjoyable. So please do that. And I do have one item on here, Madam Clerk. We need to have a meeting to give some guidance to our finance officer, Margaret, on ARP. We need to have an ARP meeting to discuss how we want to expend some of these funds in the short term, because it is going to have budgetary effects coming up. And I was wanting to see if April 20th, which is a Wednesday, would work. We're trying to get something done the next 2 weeks because I know they're diligently working on that budget. So, gentlemen, if there is a conflict, please check your schedules and reach out to reach out to Kay, and I would say we, you know, as far as the meeting goes, we can start it, well, Kay says 3, maybe we want to start it at 2. Let's start it at 2 if possible, if that date works. That way, if it runs a little long in the afternoon, we've got some extra time. So please check those dates, and unless we hear differently, we'll assume that date works for everyone. Gentlemen, any other comments before I ask for a motion to adjourn? All right. Show of hands, gentlemen. Motion to adjourn. Opposed. Motion carried, Madam Clerk. Thank you, gentlemen.